Colin Cowherd warns Aaron Rodgers' time is running out with the Steelers and the Giants. This is from the Herd. So Aaron Rodgers, we are still in limbo with Aaron Rodgers between the Steelers and the Giants. The Vikings said no mas. The Vikings said no thanks. They are moving forward with J.J. McCarthy. They are out of the Aaron Rodgers business. So let's go ahead and take a listen, and we'll react along the way.
He said he is. Oh, so here it's official. It is official. The Minnesota Vikings, the best option for Aaron Rodgers. It's over. They said not interested. We're going to go with J.J. McCarthy. So now Aaron is
predictably, like we covered this last week whenever it was Rodgers put out a statement that he would basically, he made it sound like Minnesota was really interested, which was obviously put out through his agent or whoever to drum up interest from the Steelers and the Giants. This happens all the time. Agents are in the ear of reporters and networks and whatever to try and drum up some leverage. Rodgers doesn't have any leverage. Like, that's the thing. I got bad news for Aaron Rodgers. He's in no position to make demands or dictate anything when it comes to what team he wants to play for. The fact that he's acting like he's multi-time MVP level Aaron Rodgers is crazy. He should be begging teams to take a shot on him. He should be doing everything he can to prove to these teams, which is now just Pittsburgh and New York, he should be doing everything he can to prove to these teams that he is all in on them, all in on football, all in on the NFL. But predictably, the only thing right now Aaron Rodgers is all in on is himself.
Left to the offensively tone-deaf Pittsburgh Steelers, who just lost their left tackle in Najee Harris and can't get the O-line right, or the New York Giants, who have been in like 8, 9, 10-year rebuild. That's what he's left with. It's got a Nicolas Cage feel. Big production, big personality, big revenue. Once it dips, movie studios and NFL teams are like, yeah, you're a little quirky for us. His best option, more walks on the beach in Malibu. Hey, the JFK files were released. Maybe that'll be it. But his last 30 starts, 2 different organizations, one of them a really good one, 11-19, 24 giveaways, and a passer rating below 90. And a lot of moodiness and a lot of drama.
That's the problem. Like, it's not so much the on-field stuff. You know, like, yeah, Rodgers is a better option than Mason Rudolph. Yes, Rodgers is a better option than, whatever random backup quarterback. But when you factor in, you are getting the drama, you are getting the podcast, you are getting the interviews, you are getting the moodiness, you are getting the quirkiness, you are getting the vacations to Egypt, you are getting the ayahuasca trips, you are getting the not available for training camp or OTAs or whatever. You are getting all of that. Oh, and you're getting now a injured, another year older quarterback. It's just not worth it at this point. If he was all in, if he's there, if he's telling you, I'll play for cheap, I'm there at every mini camp, training camp, whatever, I want to win, I want to do this, I want to do that. Okay. Could not be more of a difference between how Tom Brady approached his last few years and how Aaron Rodgers has approached his last few years.
And great NFL quarterbacks basically fall into 2 categories. Great and low maintenance, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Brady, Breeze. And then great quarterbacks with some maintenance, sometimes high maintenance. Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben. And here's what I know. That second group, they never age as well. Ever age as well. And that's Aaron's group. Now, he's always been, and I don't think I'm taking a shot, a little combative, even with his family. He's been moody. He's been at times arrogant. You could read Ian O'Connor's amazing book, I Did.
Yeah, that part, like, this is not new for Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers is one of the prickliest pears of all time. Rodgers, basically split from his family. Rodgers, we've heard from some of his exes what dating him was like. He has been this kind of a character his entire career. That part is not different. The part that's different now is what he's bringing to the table he's Aaron Rodgers. So he has a ton of leverage as far as like what terms he's dictating. When he was in Green Bay, he didn't. He was under contract for the Green Bay Packers, right? But now in this weird like pseudo dating game, he's got a ton of leverage. So the fact that he's got high leverage, low results, but he's bringing all of that baggage as well, that's what makes this a perfect storm of bad. It's not anything isolated on itself. Like the fact that he's quirky and combative and all that's not that big of a deal within itself. The on-field play isn't that big of a deal within itself. The age isn't that big of a deal within itself. The injury isn't that big of a deal within itself. It's the fact that they're all packaged together and they're all attached to one guy.
You could go back to NFL draft night. You can go back to Jeff Pearlman's book or Ian O'Connor's when, he's poking the great Brett Favre in the ribs. That's who he is.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be defiant for any of us in our prime. But you better pivot to compliant when you're out of your prime.
Yeah.
A lot of movie stars don't, and they don't get the offers. And Aaron Rodgers didn't, and he's not getting them either. Once you are out of the great years, you could be a high-end chef, a quarterback, a movie star, a law partner. You lose your fastball, you got to go from defiant to compliant, at least occasionally. And I thought it was very interesting this week, as the Steelers are now one of his options, the former Walter Payton Man of the Year, the highly respected team leader Cam Heyward, talking about Aaron making teams like the Steelers wait.
I ain't doing that or darkness retreat. I don't need any of that crap. Like, either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. That's simple. That's the pitch. Like, if you want me to recruit, that's the recruiting pitch. Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to be part of it, so be it. If you don't, no skin on my back.
Yeah, I mean, like that, and that's kind of where we're at now with this. And that's why I've been saying the Pittsburgh Steelers seems like such a weird match because they are so different. Their brand is so different than Aaron Rodgers' brand. The Pittsburgh Steelers are playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the fans, they play, Mike Tomlin's been the coach there for a long time. They have a very obvious identity and culture. The Jets, not so much. The Giants, not so much. The Steelers, very linear culture, identity, very obvious what brand of football they play, how they operate. You take Aaron Rodgers and put him in there, very weird, very, very weird combination. I'm not surprised at all that Cam Heyward's come out and said, we're not waiting for you. We're not joining your circus. The question isn't, do we want to jump over, hoops, jump through hoops or whatever to land Aaron Rodgers? It should be, what is Aaron Rodgers doing to allow us to come into this? To allow us to come into these hallowed halls of being a Pittsburgh Steeler. The Giants, perfect fit. Circus, chaos, young players, coach who's who's doing everything he can to hold on to his job. Perfect fit for Aaron to go there. Aaron would have all the power, all the leverage. The players would look up to him. He could kind of run the offense. Daboll would be happy to have him. He just happy to be relevant. Pittsburgh, not really the case.
That is one of the most respected NFL players, not just on the Steelers, top 10 in the league. I'm not into that darkness retreat crap. Let's be honest. If one of your friends went on one of those outside of Hollywood, it's kind of an eye roll, right?
Yeah, a little cringy.
The woods of Oregon. I mean, ayahuasca, I get artists doing that. I'm all for ayahuasca. Never going to take it, never did, but I get creative types. But when Cam Heyward's like, I'm not going to do that darkness retreat crap, I'm sorry. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah, and for all of this baggage and all of this extra stuff, you are doing all of this for a season. You're doing all of this for 17 games, maybe some playoffs. 20, let's call it 20, max 20 games. You're doing this. So that's the ROI question. Is it worth it? I don't know. I mean, Rodgers hasn't really proved that it is worth it at this point.
Like Nicolas Cage, once the production drops, people kind of feel like, yeah, maybe a little quirky for us. Not a bad guy, but a little quirky for us. It's now down to the Steelers, the Giants, or hey, the best option, in my opinion, walks on the beach in Malibu. Okay, so listen, the Minnesota situation's been weird. They're going to keep Darnold, Daniel Jones. They're interested in Aaron Rodgers. It tells me that second surgery in mid-November, maybe did it take or are they not sure? Whatever. But so let's start with that before we get to Aaron. It's like been so many quarterbacks that have been discussed. It leads me to be like suspicious of, is J.J. McCarthy healthy?
Well, I think Minnesota's found themselves in a bit of a perfect storm where they draft McCarthy. Then they explode. Like, they never, ever would have thought they'd be as good as they were last year. So now Minnesota's kind of got, all of a sudden, you got this huge window of, not huge, but you have a window of like, well, let's try and win. Like, we have a good team, obviously. So let's win. But you couldn't pay Darnold because, one, you're probably not totally sure what you have in Darnold, but two, you have J.J. McCarthy. So Minnesota's now stuck where, on one hand, they want to see the fruits of the J.J. McCarthy draft pick, but they also want to win now. So how do you balance that? And J.J. McCarthy is still an unknown. They have seen a ton more of him than we have. They have seen him during practice, and they've seen him just in the locker room and around the facilities, and they've seen him rehabbing and whatever else, but there is still a tremendous what if when he gets on that field. There is a tremendous what if or what kind of quarterback he will be. And Minnesota now has a clock ticking. So they got to be really careful with how they operate this. If J.J. McCarthy can be good, if he can be serviceable, all that does is extend their window. But if he is a complete disaster, if he is a complete bust, then they got to panic, pivot, freak out, see what they're going to do, because they got to get a quarterback in there who can be good because their window is wide open. And they can't waste Justin Jefferson. They can't waste this defense. They can't waste all of that any longer.
Yeah, so I think he is now. And the second surgery was more of a cleanup. He did lose a lot of weight, and he lost 4 months of on-field development time. And I think we've been through that, you and I, on the show a couple of times now, where, I think they're optimistic about where he is. They liked where he is where he was the first week of August, to the point where it was, could we actually play this kid this year? That was the discussion at the time, right before he got hurt. And so now I think they feel good about where he is going into the season. But, and this is a big but, do you feel comfortable enough where you're going to stake the team that you have to J.J. McCarthy and J.J. McCarthy alone? And the answer to this point of the offseason has been no, right? Like, because they did make an offer to bring Sam Darnold back. They did make an offer to Daniel Jones to come back too, and that was in the ballpark of what Indianapolis gave him. The 1 year, $14 million deal that he signed there with the Colts. So, I think it can be both things. They like JJ, they like where he is, but this is not a rebuilding team. This is a team that won 14 games a year ago, and you owe it, if you're Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, all the guys there, to the Harrison Smiths, the Andrew Van Ginkels, the Jonathan Grenards, the Byron Murphys, the Justin Jeffersons, the Christian Darasaws, to give them the best possible answer you can at quarterback. And
yeah, I mean, you don't want to take, like, you took a massive jump forward last year. You're 14-3. The last thing you want to do is take 20 steps backwards. And all of a sudden, you've got a project quarterback, you've got a developmental quarterback. Who knows? You might even have a busted quarterback. There's no telling. So the most important position on the field now is your one big question mark. It's a weird place to be in for a 14-3 team.
So I think that's why they were looking at high-end insurance policies. And I think that's what Darnold and Jones would have been. And that's why the discussion was different on Aaron Rodgers, where, if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, that ain't an insurance policy. That's jamming on the pause button on the J.J. McCarthy era and say, you got to wait another year, kid, which, could go a bunch of different ways.
Aaron Rodgers and retirement. It feels very real to me. To me, it does. Does it to you?
I wouldn't rule anything out. Aaron's his own.
I think Rodgers is so prideful that if the Giants and the Steelers both said, you know what, pass, I think Rodgers is so prideful, I think he would retire before he allowed the narrative to be that nobody wants him at quarterback.
His own guy. And, I've said all along, this could happen in 10 minutes. This could happen in 10 days. This could happen in 10 weeks. I don't think he wants to go out the way he went out last year. I had a long conversation with him over the summer where he said he didn't want to go out the way he went out in 2023, which was with the Achilles injury. If he didn't want to go out hurt, I would assume he wouldn't want to go out playing the way the Jets did at the end of the year last year. And that was just a dumpster fire of a season from start to finish for everyone involved. So I do think he has it, in his head that he wants to take one more swing at it. It's what he actually said to the Jets in their exit meetings, when they were deciding what to do, was that he did plan on playing in 2025. Plans can change. And I think that's going to, really ride on how he views the Steelers and how he views the Jets. And right now, to me, the Giants, right now, to me, the Giants are sort of analogous to what the Jets were when he went there 2 years ago, where you've got a promising young core and you're asking Aaron Rodgers to come in and lift all those guys up, right? So
I think it makes sense for because the Giants are going nowhere fast, all right? Like, they got a lot to do. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Giants to take their quarterback, whether it's Cam Heyward or Shedeur Sanders or Jackson, whoever. Take your quarterback, get Rodgers, let Rodgers play, let the quarterback learn, and then you're relevant for a year. Rodgers is, serviceable on field. You got Malik Neighbors. Let Rodgers kind of show, just kind of be the glue there while you kind of build at different positions or whatever. And then let Rodgers go on. Insert your whoever it is, Shedeur Sanders or Cam Heyward, whoever you get, insert that player the next year, and then hopefully you're rocking and rolling. So the Giants just seem like the obvious move to get Rodgers. New York, big stage, bright lights, where Rodgers wants to be. Pittsburgh, does Pittsburgh seem like Aaron Rodgers to you?
Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. They're asking him to come in and take a franchise that's been down for a while and lift it up. Whereas with the Steelers, it's different. He's jumping on a moving train. TJ Watt's going to be 31. Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be 29. Cam Heyward is at the very end of his career. They traded for DK Metcalf. He's on his third contract. I think, going to Pittsburgh, he'd be kind of syncing up with some more of his peers, and it'd be a different deal in Pittsburgh where he's more the final piece than somebody who's going to lift all boats.
I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see it for Pittsburgh. I think the Giants make a lot of sense, but I don't blame Cam Heyward. I wouldn't be waiting on Rodgers either. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think. I might have to go to Fogo de Chao after looking at this damn steak right here. All right, I'll see you in the next video.